Elianel Clinton, photographer, director, producer, born and raised in New Jersey, graduated from FIT, has shot everything from Teen Vogue to Washington Post to the New York Times. I can go on and on and on. But let's start at the beginning. You grew up in Belleville, New Jersey.
You did your research.
I did. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
Yes, born and raised in Belleville, New Jersey, small town in New Jersey. Growing up, something about being creative has just always been there. Grateful enough to have got that connection through my dad. So growing up, my dad always used to take a lot of photos of the family, and he was never a photographer, still isn't a photographer. So he just used his eye to photograph the family and document moments. And it was far beyond just like a birthday or a birth or a celebration. It was like an everyday thing. So growing up, all I saw was the camera in my face. Camera, the VHS tape, point and shoot, flashes. I'm just like, what in the world is going on here? So seeing that a lot, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And just getting older, as I got older, I was like even more infatuated with it. And I was like, it's like kind of freezing a lot of moments in time. I'm a very family man. You guys will find that out about me. I really, really love the family. So being able to be around that 24/7 and to see where I'm at right now is kind of interesting. So I give all thanks to dad. It was me and my brother, and my mom all the time. Every time we were out, my dad had the camera.
Did you ever want to be anything else before?
I did. So young me thought I was going to be a designer. I thought I was going to be an artist. I caught myself doing a lot of sketches. I would sit at the dining room table and just draw. Younger, like even younger me, I was into a lot of like Bratz dolls. So I was that kid that was like always like excited about getting a new Bratz doll to dress my Bratz doll up, getting a little G-ride for the car and like throwing in the Bratz dolls in there.
Who's
So
your favorite Bratz?
I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite
Mine
Bratz
was
doll.
Yasmin.
Yeah?
Yasmin, and then was it Sasha? Sasha.
Okay.
I think those are the two black girls. That's why.
I think, and what's so crazy is like I always just had the boys. Like I only had the guys. Yeah, they had boys Brats. So that's what like allowed my mom to say, okay, we're gonna get you a Bratz because like, we got boys in there, so we're gonna give you a Bratz doll. So seeing that and like being able to like dress them, I was like, wow, this is interesting. But yeah, I used to draw, like I used to sketch, and I really am mad that I cannot find that sketchbook. I was probably like in elementary school when I was doing this. So I did think I was going to be a designer, and then I thought I was going to be a painter. Then I thought I was going to be the person who sketches the outfits for the designers.
So I'm curious because I'm a writer, right, in my day job,
Mhm.
but I've never considered myself like creative, at least like visually creative as well. Did you always just did you just one day pick up a pencil and just start sketching and drawing, or like how does that? Do you feel like it's something innate to you?
It is. It is.
Okay.
And I always bring it back to my dad. For some reason, I just think the creativity in the photos kind of just segued into me seeing things from a different outlook. And it just was like, okay, this
Like a more
is your
visual
thing. Yeah, yeah.
look. Okay.
So just seeing that, I was like, okay, wow. The creative is just like embedded in me. But it's definitely grown. Obviously, it's grown to a different magnitude for where I'm at today. But yeah, it's just always been there. So seeing it, I was like, okay. I think I was just like learning. It was like the process of, okay, this is what this is. This is what that is. But yeah.
So then you went to FIT,
Yes.
and got a degree in photography and digital image.
Yes.
What was that like being at school in FIT? Did you feel supported by your classmates, by your teachers? Because I know a lot of times, like especially being a person of color in a lot of like predominantly white institutions or even like creative spaces, a lot of times the things that we want to tell stories about are not validated
Right.
by the higher ups or our peers. So not saying that that's your experience, but what was your experience like there?
It was a good experience. I had a sense of community in terms of like my classmates. I had a good, I'd say, 1 to 2 teachers or professors, I should say, that really helped me and honed me in my creative outlets. I think senior year is when it really, well, junior year into senior year, because we were working on a senior thesis, I think that's when it really like locked in key. And I was like, okay, this is, I knew I was a photographer, an artist, and just finding ways of like, I loved fashion, I loved portraiture, I loved landscape. So I was just kind of, I wouldn't say all over the place, but all over the place. So kind of junior year into senior year, we were working on our senior thesis, and I was blessed enough to kind of like put the lock in the door, the key in the door, and found out what I wanted to do. And it just like all of it just came together. And it's
What was
funny.
that lock or the key in the door?
I started documenting my brother's story, and I realized at the end, but maybe like mid, like I'm kind of taking over my dad's eye in terms of documenting my family. Originally, it started off with just documenting my brother's story and just kind of like telling his story from my viewpoint. Long story short, my brother just had a past and he was going to be incarcerated. So I was working on this body of work to help him. So when he comes back home, he could look at these photos and these images and see who he once was and kind of not turn back to that person. And with that being done, I was catching myself doing a lot of family stuff and like photographing mom, photographing dad at these like moments where we're just like all together, random moments where my mom is like, she dropped blackberries on the floor and she's picking them up. So I got a shot of that, like random things. And then I just started seeing like, okay, well, maybe I'm kind of taking over my dad's role and now documenting my family. So it broadened up to being more about like how we're all coping with my brother's transition and seeing that element. There was a lot of video element into that as well. So this wouldn't have been birthed if it wasn't for me trying to figure out what I want to do for my senior thesis. Originally, I wanted to do like a fashion story. I'm like, okay, that's gonna be cool, but like, is it gonna be like impactful? This was like the first time me talking about like my family and what we're going through. So that was tough because I had to get vulnerable. I remember I was explaining to my professors, like, this is what I want to do. And I was showing like work in progress and I just started breaking down crying. I'm like, holy shit. Holy shit. I'm like, I'm about to really get vulnerable and tell a story that's really personal. And it's just like, I was just thinking about how many people are going to kind of look at me in a different element or my family or my brother as a black person, just, who's going to be incarcerated. Like people have this certain outlook on like, oh yeah, he deserves to be there,
right?
So I kind of wanted to really dive in and like tell people it doesn't, like, addiction doesn't just attack one, former person, like it attacks everyone. And just kind of like telling his story and telling our family story through that was a little tough at first, but as soon as I started doing it and seeing the images from it, I shot all on film. So like when I would do the developing process and the scanning process and just seeing the images come to life, I'm like, whoa, this is a lot bigger than me. So that was good. I mean, and college really like helped in terms of like me honing in on that a little bit more. But I had a lot of good classmates who really would like support me and like be there for me. Like when I was having that moment when I was showcasing the work, like people really took the time to like consult me and like really hug me and make sure I was good. And after hearing the story, it was like really impactful. So college really did me good. And I'm grateful.
Oh, that's good.
I'm grateful for that.
That's so good because a lot of times, unfortunately, it can go the other way where
Yeah.
college is the
Yeah.
thing that kind of derails you from that.
Yeah.
But I love that you had that community. And I saw on your Instagram that kind of recently you shot your sister, I think.
Yeah, my sister-in-law.
Your sister-in-law. And you just said that you work a lot with family or you shoot your family a lot. Is it kind of difficult working with family sometimes? Or what's like the dynamic? Like because everyone has their personality.
Yeah.
So what's that like?
It sometimes is difficult in terms of like getting people on one accord, but they trust me enough in my eye to be like, okay, Ellie, we trust you. What do we have to do? Especially having her, my sister-in-law, a part of the family now. I just knew I really wanted to take on this role of documenting my nephew and my now niece and the process of the process of them coming to life pretty much and just like what I saw as a young kid, like looking back at my photo album book, seeing what I looked like at a day old and my dad capturing that moment, I was like, I want that for my nephew and niece. I know my brother's not a creative, so I was like, I know he's gonna take the photos, but like I am the photographer in the house and I just want to like freeze all these moments. I knew with those shoots that I did for her maternity shoot, like I wanted to build out a scene in terms of like how I view them and then also too just like bringing in my art into that with the fashions and the portraiture and the lighting and the set design. I knew I wanted to bring all those elements in, so for them to like sit back and like trust me was a blessing. I know my sister-in-law, she always loves getting like dolled up and then to be able to be like,
and that's nice as like an expectant mother, you know what I mean? A lot of time like, when you're a mother, people are so focused on the baby and the baby, and the baby, and as they should be, but it's also like the mother is the person that's kind of taking the brunt of a lot of what's going on.
Yeah.
And sometimes they deserve, well, all the time, they
Deserve it.
deserve,
Yeah.
to be treated nicely and just like push present or something like that.
Yeah. I think it is
Um,
it also is like it's a whole thing. Like it's not just about the baby. Shout out to my Malik and Kalila. I love you guys dearly. But it also is about the process of the mom, like what she's going
Right.
through, how her body's changing. And I just wanted to take a time to like really like freeze those moments for her, for their family,
Yeah.
and just like all of that. So it was
Yeah.
really good. And I really want my nephew and niece to be like, oh, this like I was in here, like I was in
Yeah.
mommy's belly,
I
like
mean,
all of
that's
that
the most
stuff.
amazing part. Like my sister, she only has one child, Malia Ray. She's 4 now.
Oh.
All around the house, there's photos of the maternity shoot. And it's
Yeah.
just like the other day I was up there and we were going through the photo albums. She's like, that's mommy, that's daddy. I'm like,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
inside that belly.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I think we need to really get back into like taking photos and
Yeah.
keeping them in
Yeah.
more than just like our phone.
Yeah.
Like I've been thinking about like going through a lot of my photos and like putting it into a book
Like an
so
album.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like when I have kids or, even my like little sisters, like I can show them, or even just for me, just to
Yeah.
look back.
Yeah.
A lot
It's
of
really good to see.
yeah, because a lot of times on, phones, you lose them, something gets
They get
damaged.
lost in
Like
the camera
it's just,
roll.
you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
I'm a
Um,
huge advocate for printing things, and that's one thing
mm,
I've been wanting to work on a little bit more is printing, even if it's like a photo from my phone. I've been working on this family album book since my senior year of college, and that's like
wow.
5 years ago. 5 years ago? Yeah, about 4 or 5 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
So I've been working on that. So printing and throwing it in there has been like a blessing. And then I also do a lot of Polaroids.
Mhm.
So what's amazing about that is like I'm using my dad's Polaroid he would shoot me and my brother on when we were little and my family on. And now I'm taking that same exact Polaroid camera and I'm taking photos of my nephew and nieces and my family, my nephew and niece and my family through that same Polaroid. So putting those in the album book and kind of recreating what my dad and mom did for me and my
Yeah.
brother for my family.
That's such an important story of also like intergenerational, like
Yeah.
passing things
Yeah.
down in like the most positive way. Like a lot
Yeah.
of times we hear about the negativity about
Yeah.
having intergenerational trauma, but like
Yeah.
that is such like a great way for your dad to pass down something and then for you to sort of like use that in a new way.
Yeah. It's like a
It's
huge vehicle. And like
yeah.
what's really fun about this is seeing my nephew like pick up the camera and like be really interested in what I'm doing. Like when I'm working from home, which I'm on the laptop and I'm doing or messing around with the camera or shooting the family,
Right.
he's always interested.
How old is he?
He is 5. He's 5 years old.
Cute.
And to see his interest in the camera at such an early age, it's just amazing to just witness, like, just the excitement when he shoots. He's like, "Theo, look at this." Like, just things like
Aw.
that really, like, warm my heart to just see this little kid who's, like, exploring life
Yeah.
and, experimenting things,
And that's
so
the right age for it, 'cause I have 2 younger sisters. I have one that's 12 and one that's 4. She's
Oh, wow,
turning
I don't know.
yeah, she's a baby.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
you know how it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's turning 5 next month, and I just it's so weird, like, I can't even imagine being, like, an actual parent to a
Yeah.
child, 'cause as the sister or as, like, the uncle, it's so weird to
Yeah.
see them grow. It's like
Yeah.
you were in the stomach and then you were like a blob that like couldn't
Yeah,
like sit up or
yeah.
anything. You're just falling over. You couldn't eat yourself, like you couldn't feed yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're like running around the place like your little bike and like being sassy and have to tell you,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but my point in saying that is like this is such an important age for
Yeah.
kids. Like not only are they being so observant to
Yeah.
family dynamics,
Yeah.
relationships and stuff like that, but that's when you can really get in there and like
Yeah.
show them something new,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It is interesting though to see how smart he is. It's like he
They're
is
so
at that
smart.
age where it's like
Yeah.
he would not forget what you just said to him,
Right.
and he'll like throw that in your face like a couple minutes later. But it's interesting. It's very interesting, and I'm grateful to be able to be the uncle and not the
Yeah,
dad because it's
yeah.
like seeing like that from afar is like okay, wow, like this is what it is to have like a family and kids. But it's a blessing.
Yeah.
It's a huge blessing that I'm not far from home.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a good part of having the parents there
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
having
yeah.
like aunts and uncles and cousins because
Yeah.
the parents have to do the more
The
like
parent stuff.
the parent stuff and then like the other people could we can introduce maybe the more creativity and like spend time with
Yeah.
them on certain things and really like cultivate interests and skills and honestly that's the great thing about having family and
Yeah.
having everybody involved is that the
Yeah.
parents don't have to do all of that.
Yeah.
They don't have to do the parenting, the creativity, the homework, the going to bed. Like
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
lot, you
Yeah.
know?
It is a lot. It's a lot to, like, handle. So it's good to have, like, a family, and that's just how I was raised.
Yeah.
I was raised really, like, family
Yeah.
first, and I'm grateful for that, like, super grateful.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the only people I care about, like, really making happy is the family, aside from younger self.
What's your background? Is your family from
So my mom is Puerto Rican and my dad is
Okay.
black.
Okay.
So we got a mixture of both. So it's really lovely.
I saw you're doing a project in
Yes.
Puerto Rico. We'll talk about that later,
Yes,
but that's
yes, yes.
super exciting. Puerto Rico is really having their shine
Yeah.
recently, which I'm
Yeah.
so I mean, obviously Bad Bunny is a big part of that, but Puerto
Yeah.
Rico's
It's
just been going through
crazy.
a lot. Like
Yeah.
this country has not treated them well. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that they're getting their shine. Okay, so you're in college, you do your senior thesis, now you graduate. What's the scene? Like, do you have a job starting right now? Or like, are you sort of being scrappy? Like, what's your next move?
So fast forward before college, mom and dad told me, and shout out to mom and dad because they were super supportive in every endeavor I've taken. But they did tell me when I was, like, in high school, I'm like, I want to go to FIT. I want to go to New York. I want to go to New York. I know I'm going to flourish in New York. I need to be in New York. So I'm grateful that I always knew I wanted to be an artist. I had some surrounding friends who just didn't know what they wanted to do after high school, but I was grateful enough to know, like, this is what I want to do. I told mom and dad I want to go to New York, and they're like, yes, we're going to support you. But keep in mind what life is gonna be like after school. Like, where are you gonna be? What job are you gonna have? What's it gonna look like after school? I'm like, girl, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm like, I
Right.
got this. Like, So I remember getting the acceptance letter in the mail to FIT, and I was like, it's
That
really
must have been
happening. Like, this
tough.
is happening. This is, like, really real. So did college, went to school. Junior year, we needed to get an internship for senior year, and I could not find an internship for the life of me. I was panicking, and junior year is when I really realized, okay, I have anxiety. I had the worst breakdown ever because I couldn't find the right internship. Because I know, like, you get an internship, you build there. After school, it's like
Right.
you got a
Return
job.
offer.
You know, grateful enough.
What type of places were you trying to intern at? Like agencies or like studios or
I was trying to be at a publication
Okay.
because I was like, I want to be their staff photographer. I want to be
Okay.
that staff photographer. So I was looking at publications, and I was just like, there's no internships. Grateful enough, I was landed an internship at a smaller publication, learned a lot there, experienced a lot, and got my very first print issue through that publication while interning there. And so got the internship, and then I got a second internship as well. That was cool. They were both really great internships. I learned a lot, but there was no job after school. So I know it came senior year, we're about to graduate, still no job. I'm like, okay, there's no job lined up for me
Right,
after school.
right,
So I'm like, wow, I have to pay my loans back. So what are we doing, Ellie?
right.
What are we doing? What are we doing? So it was stressful, but I'm like,
It's
I'm
so
also
scary.
graduating. So I think I graduated, no job. I think it was maybe August of 2018. August of 2018, I applied to this job and I got the job. I'm like, I got to pay my bills. It wasn't like the dream job, but it was a job shooting. It was an ecom job.
Okay.
So I'm in a literally studio, no windows, miserable. Granted, the first year was like, okay, cool. This could be a thing. Maybe I might get to, I was shooting in the studio portion doing ecom work. I was like, okay, maybe I might make my way into the creative
Right.
department. Let's see, let's try it out. First year, I realized and started reading the room. I'm like, yeah, well, there's no black people there. So the likelihood of me getting into that room is very slim to none. So I was still hopeful. I was like, I'm creative and I'm talented. So I'm like, okay, there's something gotta give. And unfortunately, that never was the case. So I was at this job for 3 years in total. Second year I got injured. That moment was like, oh yeah, this is real. Like, that sparked it in me. I was like, okay, I cannot keep doing this. I cannot stay here. I need to really just try something else. But bills got to be paid. So it's like I was trying to just figure it out. I'm like, what are we doing? So I stood there still
And all this time are you shooting on the
So
side as well? Or you just
I haven't gotten any assignments. My second year is when this happened. 2019 is when I think I started getting assignments. And so I remember it so vividly. My very first assignment, I was at this 9 to 5 job. I'm shooting miserable. I'm like, oh, this is like boring. And an editor from the New York Times literally calls my phone. I'm like, is this a scam? What is going on? So I took a moment to go to the lunchroom, and I was asked to shoot a story. I was like, this is my first assignment.
and it's the New York Times.
And it's the New York Times. I'm like, whoa, okay. I mean, granted, prior to that, I was getting like little assignments, minimal stuff, not to the extreme of that.
Mhm.
And when I got that, I was like, oh yeah, it's up. I'm leaving this job. I'm about to be booked and busy. That wasn't the case. So I got the assignment, I shot that, and then the New York Times was just rolling in one after another. And I was grateful enough to like have the moments where I was off of my 9 to 5 job to do those assignments, because I was working 10-hour shifts, 4 days a week. So I literally had a 3-day weekend, and I'm grateful enough that most of the assignments were, you know, scheduled around my days of my availability.
Right.
And was doing that a lot. And then I think I did in total to date maybe about like 23 New York Times assignments. So during the job, I was still working this 9 to 5, and I was still doing the freelance, and that's when things really started kind of to elevate a little bit more. The Wall Street Journal came to my door, asked me to was trying to hire me for an assignment, and this was a date that I was working my 9 to 5 job. So I'm like, okay, let me try.
Right,
Yes,
right. Let me try
Wall
to
Street
finesse
Journal.
something, move some stuff around.
Move things around. I said, yes, Wall Street Journal. Went to my job, and they were not giving me no PTO. They weren't allowing me to take off of work. So I had to say no to the assignment. And at that moment, I said, no, this cannot be. Like, I cannot be turning down where I want to be for being where I don't want to be.
Right.
And I'm grateful for that job, because it really it showed me all avenues of like my worth in terms of like, I'm not about to be working for someone to make someone else rich. And I went to school for X amount of time and spent X amount of money to do elsewhere, like, and be my own boss. So I just was like, you know what, this isn't doing it for me. And then, like I said, I got injured, and I think that the injury was year 2, if I'm not mistaken, year 2, going on to year 3, and that's what set the tone for me. I was like, yeah, no, I can't keep doing this, and I just started even doing more and more outreach. I missed that whole entire part, but I was doing a lot of outreach during this 9 to 5 job. I would literally, on my lunch breaks, I would be emailing people, I would be researching people, all New York Times editors. And then once I kind of got like the nook and people were responding to me and I was getting their emails, I was like, oh, this is okay. Let me just start
It's like
email
you've unlocked
blasting.
something. Yeah.
Unlock the next door. And I was just like, okay, let me just start emailing people. I was DMing people. I was putting my pride aside, because I was like, this is ghetto. Like, why am I DMing people? But I was like,
you have to.
I cannot be
You
here.
have
I was
to.
so miserable. I was catching like myself, like losing myself. I was in the bathroom just for like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm looking up like editors in the bathroom, sending out emails, sending out DMs. There was points in time where I made it to having meetings with these editors during my lunch break. So I'm bringing my laptop to work to meet with these editors, producers, art directors, creative directors. And I remember this one so vividly. I was on a call with the head of production at Nike, their team, and I'm just in this meeting talking about myself, talking about my family project, and the head of production starts to cry. I was like, wow, okay. I knew that work really was like touching to me, but to like kind of really talk about it and then have someone have that reaction. And we had to end the call because they had a call with Serena Williams right after me. I was like, even more.
Not you being like in the same sentence as Serena Williams.
I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, Ellie, just keep doing whatever the fuck it is that you're doing. Just keep doing that.
Something right.
I was like, you know, something is making sense. And did that. The job eventually put me on a leave of absence. And this is like going into COVID. Okay. I'm on a leave of absence, paid leave of absence, no disability. I have this injury and I still got these bills to pay. Right. So I'm like, what am I doing? New York Times, I started doing a lot of assisting work and started really hustling. So I was on a leave of absence for 7 months. And within those 7 months, like when I got put on that leave of absence, I was like, okay, we're about to figure this out. Right. We're about to like try it. This is like the perfect trial run. And that last week that I was at that job before the leave of absence. I was going through this injury, my very first breakup, and I'm losing this low key kind of like losing this job ish. And then Converse hit me up and they were like, "Do you want to model for our winter campaign?" I was like,
Wow.
wait, okay, I see you, God, you really are doing your biggest.
Look.
So that was like a big one, and that kind of like got me on my feet in terms of like financially, like that was like a good, beautiful check. And then I was just doing a lot of like freelancing. I was doing assisting. I was doing the New York Times was coming back like constantly. And I was getting these gigs. And month 7, the job calls me back and they're like, "Hey, the doctor took you off of leave of absence. It's time for you to come back to work." I was like,
Yeah, no.
"I'm good." And it's so crazy because the day they called me, I'm on set assisting Dana Shrugs, who's an amazing photographer. She's shooting Kim Kardashian's skincare line. So this
Oh,
is pre
shit.
before it came
Yeah.
out. I'm at Pier 59 where I've always dreamed of like being, and this job is calling me to come back to work.
Yeah.
I said, "Girl," I said, "Yeah, okay, you got it. Be there tomorrow." I literally looked at the set and I looked at the phone. I was like, "This is a make or break. This is like, do I want to take all these steps that I've taken through these 7 months? Do I want to take all those steps and just like throw it out the window
Yeah.
and go back? Or do I want to keep moving forward?" I decided to not go back and keep moving forward. And it just like from there on, it just like skyrocketed and it just kept going just up.
Yeah.
Granted, there was like a lot of downs,
Of
but
course.
it was up and down, up and down. I had preferred that than being back over there.
Yeah. That's so amazing. I feel like what I'm really getting from all of this is like each time you were met with like a decision or two things,
Mhm,
you bet on yourself.
mhm.
And that's really like the point of this podcast
I was gonna say
too. Is
that.
like that's what I really want to showcase and highlight is the amount of times that people when we're met with again like two decisions,
Mhm.
circumstances, it's always best to bet on yourself
Yourself. Mhm.
because you just even if it's difficult at times because it wasn't easy after that,
No,
you know what I'm saying? There's always gonna
it
be
still isn't.
there's always gonna be pitfalls and things
Yeah,
that you have to deal with, but it's like, I'd rather deal with that
yeah,
and making sure that I'm investing in myself
yeah,
versus
yes,
taking the job that I'm just gonna be they're just gonna drain me and take
yeah.
from me.
Make you complacent.
It's not growing
Yeah.
into me, you know? So that's such an interesting story. I
Yeah,
love
thank you.
that.
It still is a little tough.
Of
Like kind of
course.
navigating, doing what's best for me.
Yeah.
But after that experience, it's really inspired me to like just bet on me. Like no matter what, like there's no rule book to this. So it's like figuring it out and just knowing that, at the end of the day, and this is something I've always told myself, even younger Ellie, like I would say, you are your biggest fan, you are your biggest supporter. No one got you like you got you. So I just have always told myself that. And I think when it got to levels of like adulthood, it
Yeah.
was like even more like potent. Like I really just got me, and I'm gonna be the one to figure it out. I'm grateful for the family that I have, but no one has had entrepreneurship in their
Right.
background. So like I couldn't be like, "Mom, what do I do here?" Or like,
Right.
"Dad, like," it was we were all figuring it out together.
Right.
And when I would figure it out, I'd have moments where I'm talking to them and they're helping me figure it out. So we're all kind of just figuring it out together. And it was like really, I'm honored that they took the time to really like sit there and like believe in me and then
Yeah.
also like learn with
Yeah.
me. So it's been
That's so important. Like, I feel like we're talking about like family so much, but it's so instrumental into like who we are
yeah,
as people.
absolutely.
And like, there's so many families that unfortunately don't support
Yeah,
their children, especially like children of immigrants. And
yeah,
like, there's all that we know the reasons for it. You
yeah,
know, it's understandable to an extent, but it's
yeah,
very refreshing to hear when a family is like, we're gonna figure this out together.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like you need help doing XYZ, figuring out a LLC or
yeah,
something, whatever the
yeah,
case is, like
yeah,
let's try and like really figure this out so that you can be successful in what you want to do.
yeah,
And therefore you're happier, right? The
yeah.
family's happy, everyone's getting along, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. And I like to use that as like a vehicle to inspire other folks and other families. Like I really hope like my story could like, touch at least one person at
Mhm.
most so that one person could touch multiple people.
Yeah,
But just really like using my story as a vehicle to really like show folks like it's doable with families who aren't supportive, with
yeah,
immigrant families. There's so many reasons as to
right.
why like, things work out the way they work out, but just like having my story be showed to other families and other talents who are trying to do it,
Yeah.
and give them some sort of hope.
Yeah. There's so much power in storytelling. And like,
Yes.
as a writer and now podcast host, I'm
Woo.
really leaning into that.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is really, I like to, highlight the experiences of not only the Black community, but also the Black female community. And so I know last year you did a project with our mutual friend, Rue, which was
Lovely Rue.
amazing. Absolutely. Like, I never told anybody this, but like during the event where she like unveiled everything and you
Mhm.
guys had a panel discussion, like, I was so overwhelmed with emotion, like, I was crying. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot of
you
people were
literally,
crying,
yeah.
but, like,
Yeah.
I had to step outside, and, like, Rue was so nice to, like, comfort me and just be like, "It's okay." Like, I don't
Yeah.
even think she really knew what was going on. I didn't even really know what was
What's
going
going
on. I
on?
was not planning to cry when I
Yeah.
went in there, but it was just I've known Rue for 2.5 years since I've
Mhm.
started working at Glamour, and we're one of only 3 Black people on the team. And so there's a lot of camaraderie and relatability that we have. We
Yeah.
sit right across from each other. And so to see her grow from when we first started working together
Mhm.
to creating this whole amazing project on her own and doing it outside of the confines of corporate
Yeah.
was like really,
Yeah.
really inspiring for me. And like, again, all these like building blocks that have led me to where I'm at right now. But in that project, and then also in all the other projects that you do,
Mhm.
how do you how do you let that story come through in your work?
I just think I really love telling stories. Every story that I do, some form of personality of me is in it.
Mhm.
Um, when Rue tapped me and she had this idea, I was already on board. Just love Rue deep
Yeah.
down. Shout out to Rue. Love you down, girl. When I first met her, I just knew we were like in sync. She supported me. And it's so crazy. I know you didn't ask, but like how we met was with shooting Sam for the Met Gala, and
Yeah.
how I got in that room was because I was styled by Siobhan Kennedy, who styled Sam that year.
Oh.
She was styling me for the Converse campaign, the winter one. I was a fan of her even before that. So when I saw her name on the call sheet, I was like, oh my gosh, Siobhan's gonna be there. She's styling me. We connected so well. I then reached out to her and followed up. I said, hey, Met Gala's coming up. I
Mhm.
would love to photograph whoever you're dressing. I don't even care for a check. Like I just wanna, give back and I just wanna, be in the room and work with you
Right.
and highlight your work. And I then met Sam. And with that said, I met Rue.
Right.
And from there it just was like everything. So when she tapped me for this project, I was like, absolutely. I love telling stories, especially that story. It just felt right. It just was like, yes, absolutely. And we came together and it just like one thing after another. We had a lot of multiple meetings, but I just knew I wanted to help her tell the story. I just knew I wanted to help her tell the story. Where I had seen myself in that was just like prior, I think it was like a year prior to that, I did a project. I mean, I've been always doing my family, but I did a project that really highlighted my grandmother and my like all the women in my life, being my grandmother and my mom. For Women's History Month, I decided to do this body of work where I'm like paying homage to like that side of my family, womanhood. And when she tapped me, I was like, "Oh yeah, like this is like I'm
Right up
all
your alley.
for it,
Yeah.
let's do it." And one thing led to another, and the outcome of it was just like breathtaking. Like that
Yeah.
set felt so like it just felt home. Like it
Mhm.
really related to like me shooting mom and dad, or my nephew and niece, or my
Yeah.
brother and sister in law. It felt like family. And it was only right. It was only right.
I love that, and you definitely feel that when you look at the photos,
Thank
and then
you.
also being in the room. I know not everyone was able to be in the room, but,
Mhm.
like, Rue's family was there,
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah,
everyone that was a part of the project was there, and it
yeah,
just felt very, like it felt like everyone had a great time
yeah,
on set, which
yeah.
is amazing. Is there any story that you want to tell that you haven't told yet?
There's so many. There's so many stories. I have an entire keynote deck with a lot of pitches that I've been working on and throughout time. And it's just only growing more. There's just so many stories. There's so many stories that I want to tell and working on telling. For instance, like the project in Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
that's one that I've been working on and going back to continue that.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that Puerto Rico project?
Yeah, so that Puerto Rico project, it's entitled Espejo.
Hmm.
And in English, that means mirror. Again, giving back to who's come before me. my grandmother and my grandfather who were from my Puerto Rican side. Each side, we've had good relationships, but I haven't had the relationship I wish I had with them. Unfortunately, none of them are no longer here. So the works that I'm doing is like a love letter to them, but also to a love letter to finding out who I am and my roots. So with that body of work, I'm planning on photographing people who are on the island who are based there and highlighting their stories, but within highlighting their stories, kind of like looking at myself and my culture and my history. Growing up in America, people, say I'm Americanized and like I don't speak Spanish. So people look at me like, oh, are you really even Puerto Rican? You know what I'm saying? So I get all these, are you Puerto Rican enough? Like all these things, are you black enough? So it's like a mixture of all of that. So like, really like diving deeper into that Puerto Rican heritage. My recent shoot I just did for my birthday, I tapped into like my black side and really highlighted my dad and his culture. So that was a huge inspiration for that body of work. And now I'm working on Espejo, um, which is on my Puerto Rican side. So just like diving into that, and I'm really excited by the outcome with that body of work. I know in 2023, I went back to bury my grandfather. And while there, I started the project. Like I connected with Puerto Rican based talent and we just had fun and we just shot around. And it didn't take for me, and it didn't take until me coming back home, seeing the negatives and I mean, seeing the scans and seeing what I created over there and kind of just connecting the dots on like, oh, this is Espejo. Like, this is what we're about to do. So within the time of 2023 to 2024, I was cultivating like ideas and like really coming together with building Espejo out. And, here we are now going back next week to continue the body of work. Granted, I'm going back next week for my grandmother's 10-year anniversary. So we're um,
The whole
going to
family's going back.
pretty much, well, half the family. We're going, and with me going over there, I'm also going to continue Espejo.
So you said you started that project in
Yeah.
2023. So that's like insane to me that you've been working on one thing. I mean, not all only one thing, but that you've been working on it for 2 years
Yeah.
basically at that point. Is that usually how long does it usually take when you're working on like a project like that?
It depends. My longest project I've worked on was 6 years. So to kind of put that
Wow.
into perspective, I try not to rush things, and
Yeah.
I'm so intentional about the work. So it's like, maybe one month I'm like going this way. The next month I'm like, okay, we're going to pivot and kind of like go a little bit in this direction. As an artist, I'm always in my head a lot, honing in on things and making it feel right. But time to time, like passion projects, they really like the longest one, like I said, well, actually, the longest one has been my family project. That's been 9 years in the making. So once I did that, I was like, okay, I don't have to like rush to do a project to just put it out there and just like let it live out there. I take my time with the projects and I want them to have some form of placement in terms of like whatever's bigger than me, whether that be like a show or whatever it might look like, but something big
Yeah.
with that.
I really like that because I was talking with my friend yesterday, and I'm 24. Most of my peer group is around that age,
Mhm.
just graduated 2 years ago. And I was telling her how my first recording's today, and I'm like super excited. And she actually knew you. She was like,
Really?
yeah. She was like, oh, who is it? I was like, oh, like this guy. She was like, oh my God, like I follow him, whatever.
I love that.
And I was like, yeah, you're great, whatever, whatever. But I was trying, she has her own like passion project that she said she's been thinking about since I think senior year of high school or
Oh,
college.
wow.
And she had brought it up to me like, a few months ago. And I'm always going to support and always be like, girl, you could do this. Like, I'm also the person that's like trying to figure out how can you do this,
That's what
And, but she kept saying, I don't like, sometimes you just feel stuck and sometimes you feel like either you feel stuck or you get overwhelmed with like how long it will take to do it.
yeah.
So I feel like that's really great that you give yourself the time to work through all the things you need to work through to make it the best that it can be,
Yeah.
whether that's 6 months or 9 years.
Yeah.
Because if it was me, I'd be like, okay, let me print out all the photos and just put it together and like, here, done.
Yeah.
And like, it's really about the process,
Yeah.
not necessarily like the end result all the time.
Exactly. I think the process is what I really enjoy. I mean, granted, the end result is always like a big joy to see, but the
Right.
process in like, being able to look back at an image and be like, oh, I was going through this at this time, like things like that. And I think the pressures of the outside world and like, the internet seeing so much on a constant basis, I think could really be like hone in on really like fucking with our creative sometimes, you
Yeah.
know?
I wanna switch gears a
Yes.
little bit because it was your birthday,
Yes.
like, 4 days ago, 5 days ago, a week ago?
I'm bad with numbers in my head. We're on Friday. My
Yeah.
birthday was Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes, yes, 2
Okay,
days
2
ago.
days ago. And you are 30?
No, 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 not
29?
yet, 29.
29, okay. I got a little
It's
confused by
all
the
good, it's
caption.
all
I was
good, it's
like it
all
was like 29 years
good.
ago. How does it feel to be 29, and what are you looking forward to
Oh
for
my
this year?
gosh. It feels good. It's like a lot of feelings, on the day of my birthday, I was like, "Oh, it feels good. We're stepping into 29." And then sometimes I'm like, "Oh my god, we're stepping into 29, girl. It's about to be 30 next." But I think all in all, age is nothing but a number.
Yeah.
But I think seeing how I've grown over the years, that is very impactful for me. And just like, it feels good. I'm really excited for year 29 and see what it brings to me. There's have we have opportunities that are like still in the works. So I'm excited to see those kind of come to life. Uh, but yeah, 29 is gonna be a good year. I feel it. My friend just told me that my Saturn is in return.
And wait, so I'm an astrology girl, but what does that mean? Does that mean,
I
like, everything that you've wanted is
Yeah,
gonna
so
come?
pretty much like
Okay.
all the seeds I planted are gonna start sprouting and growing. A big shift in my life is supposed to happen. So we'll see. I'm
Wow.
excited about that. And I had no idea that was even a thing until he
Yeah.
texted me. He was like, Ellie, you're also like, this is your
Mhm.
year. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Do you wanna stay in New York?
I do. I kind of want to be bi-coastal
Okay.
because it's like I want a little bit of warm weather, but then it's like I kind of want to be able to come home. It's still like up in the air because like
Mhm.
I'm kind of like wherever the wind takes me.
Yeah.
But I must say I can't be far from family.
Right.
And like I said in the beginning, like family is everything to me. And I can't imagine life being far from home.
Mhm.
So that's why I would say bi-coastal if anything.
Right.
But yeah.
Is there a place, like another country, that you would love to shoot in?
Oh yeah. I want to go all around the world. I was talking with Rue recently and we're like Moscow Flower was just like the beginning and
Mhm.
there's plans to go to Ethiopia
Mm.
and I'm like, girl, she knew already. Like she knew
Yeah.
already. So it's like I want to travel the world. I want to see the world and document it.
Mhm.
So there's like no constraints on like where I want to go. There's like I wouldn't even say like a spot like I want to go like right now, like
Mhm.
literally anywhere, everywhere.
You've shot everything from covers to, like, group photos to, like, outside, inside the
Mhm.
studio. Do you have a favorite environment to shoot in
I
or
love
preferred?
I love outdoors. I
Outdoors.
really love outdoors. Cause throughout college I was so confined. Oh, I have to shoot in the studio. Like it's not gonna be successful if I'm not shooting in the studio. But when I experienced my second passion project, which was shot outdoors, the body of work is called Silence. I scouted the location and the location was actually in New Jersey, but it looks otherworldly. It looks like I was in like, out the country. And once I like saw that, I was like, this feels more me.
Right,
Granted, I could get up in the studio too, but
right.
I do love outdoors and like building a set outside.
Mm.
Is always really fun for me.
As a photographer, how do you make the talent feel comfortable being in front of the camera? Because I recently did headshots and I'm like I'm very like comfortable being in like public speaking and like
Yeah,
doing all the
yeah,
things, but I think in this day and age, we've become so accustomed to like no like looking at the phone and seeing how we
yeah,
look. You know, like
yeah,
I could do a mirror pic. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like
I'm the
I could do
same
a
way.
selfie, but not having control over how I look or not being able to see how I
Uh-huh.
look was very uncomfortable, and it made
Yeah.
me think, like, I actually do wanna get more comfortable in front of the camera, like, I've been thinking about just getting, like, a digital camera to just, like,
And
play
shoot. Yeah,
around
yeah,
with,
yeah.
but as a photographer, when you're shooting people that maybe are not as comfortable in front of the camera, do you have any, like, tips or tricks
Mhm.
that you do to sort of, like, create a more comfortable environment?
Those are actually my favorite. I mean, I wouldn't say favorite, but wow. I do love someone who is, like, used to the camera, but also someone who's not used to the camera because
Mhm.
that's, like, not a challenge, it's just like I look at it as a collaborative thing. I'm taking your photo, but also too, like, I'm making sure you are okay with, like, how you're looking. So it's building that energy and just making them feel comfortable, showing them I do shoot in film, but sometimes I shoot digitally.
Yeah.
So, like, when I shoot digitally, it's easy to kinda like, "Hey, this is what things are looking like."
Yeah.
but building that trust with my talent and who I'm shooting is very, very powerful. And I think that's what really helps, me shoot them in a way where they're happy with
Right.
like the outcome. It's all about energy, all about vibes, I think, is what really helps set the tone and making them feel as comfortable, whether that be if they want a certain song on or they want people
The
to clear the
playlist is so
room.
important, like,
It
so, so
makes a
important.
difference. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, building that like that tone and setting it and making them comfortable.
So you shot a lot of people. Most recently that I saw on your page, Kerry Washington for
Mhm.
Washington Post, Serena Page for
Yeah.
from Love Island for Essence, and then Monet for Teen Vogue. What were those when you got those opportunities? Walk me through that. Like, what were you super excited, or were you like
Oh, yeah.
nervous, or when you got that call, what was that like?
I will start off with the first one, which was Monet for Teen Vogue. So crazy because I have been pitching to the art director or just like being in contact with the art director for years.
Can I just say something real quick? I remember when we were chilling in the hotel room
Uh-huh.
waiting for Sam to come back from the Met so you could take more pictures of her. We were chit-chatting and obviously Teen Vogue is a part of Condé Nast, Glam is a
Yeah.
part of Condé Nast, and you had mentioned like, "Oh, like, do I know anyone?" Like, like at Teen Vogue.
Uh-huh.
And I remember just thinking like, "Oh shit, I want to see if there's someone that I could connect him with." I wasn't
Yeah.
that far along like into the career yet, so I didn't
Mhm.
really know anyone, but I remember thinking like, "Okay, so he wants to shoot for Teen Vogue. That's good to know."
Yeah.
And then like a couple months later, I
It
saw
happened.
you shooting. And I was just like, that is really speaking it into existence
Yeah.
though. Like you said that you wanted to do that and
That's
God
it.
made it happen.
I'm a huge person who loves to manifest, and I'm a huge believer in manifestation, speaking my destiny into
Yeah.
existence. With Teen Vogue, I've been in contact. Like I said, I've been in contact with the art director for I'd say 4 or 5 years, and I would always email. Like I would always throughout my outreaches, always outreaching. Hey, this is my new stuff, or hey, do you guys have anything coming up? I again put the key in the door, locked it in, unlocked it at such a great time. This was during Afropunk. I've been to Afropunk when I was younger, but haven't in like recent years. But I always knew there was cool ass people there. I'm like,
Yeah.
I gotta get there and I
Yeah.
gotta shoot the people. And I reached out and I pitched myself to the art director and I was like, hey, are you guys covering Afropunk this year? I would love to shoot it for you. It was kind of like a workaround, but it worked out and they hired me for that. I kid you not, the moment I heard like the okay to shoot for Teen Vogue at Afropunk, an hour later they hit me back and they're like, while we have you here, would you like to also shoot Monet?
Wow.
Well, they didn't say who it was, but they said, would you also love to shoot a story for us? I was like, girl, what? Yeah, I said, yeah. Then they told me who it was. I was like, I wasn't familiar with her at the time. I've seen her, but the moment like I told like my sister-in-law, she was like, Ellie, what? I was like, girl, I know. I was like, this is crazy. So that happened. I did Afropunk, and then I think it was maybe like a week later, I photographed Monet. And that was my first time in the Condé Nast building, first time in the Condé Nast studio, excuse me. And that was like the first time I'm like doing this story with a talent like such, with my ideas being approved with a team, like walked in, styling table was decked down. I was like, options.
Yeah.
But it was great. And so that one was like a moment. And Monet and I kicked it off like really well. And it just felt so good. It felt so good. That one was like a lovely, lovely shoot. And then segueing into what was next after that was Serena Page for Essence Girls United. That one came off random fly. I was like, I knew she was in town, I think, for like maybe the weekend. So like when they hit me, it was like maybe 3 days before. So it was like, we got to make it happen.
Right.
Made that happen. And then I remember finding out it was like a cover. And that was like my first cover ever. Um, so once I found that out, I was like, oh,
Right, right.
whoa. But that was lovely. Like she was great as well. Like the energy was there. It was a really quick shoot. Like that was one of oh, Kerry Washington was the quickest, but that was a quick shoot. Really great. Really loved the outcome, and like the people really loved that one. And then segueing into Kerry Washington. I remember this one so vividly. I think it was like 2 or 3 days before. I'm like, I'm quitting, giving this up. It's not working out. I have a lot of those moments. I have a lot of those moments. I kid you not. I literally had one last week, but I had that moment and I woke up to an email from an editor from the Washington Post saying, "Hey, we have this." What was the terminology they use? Like top tier talent. I forgot the verbiage. I'm like blanking out right now, but something along the lines of like, we have a top tier talent. We need you in DC to shoot it. Can you hop on a call in like the next hour or two? I never texted my manager so fast. I said, yo, I said, Kyrie, look,
We in there.
look what we just got. We don't know who the talent is because they didn't mention it.
But they wouldn't say that unless it was top tier
Yeah,
talent.
yeah, yeah,
Like, you're not
yeah.
just saying that.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my gosh, is it? Is it Kamala Harris? I was like,
Right,
you
because
have to be.
DC.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
around the time of like the
right.
election. So I'm like, Kyrie, it might be. We don't know who it is. He was like, we don't know who it is, Ellie. We're just gonna get on this call and we're gonna hear her out. We got on the call. The moment she mentioned Kerry Washington's name, I literally had to mute myself for a minute to like gag because I was like, whoa. Like, she is an impactful person who's inspired me tremendously. So to be able to be the lead photographer, you know, a lot of the times, like I was the assistant, I was just like a PA, and I wasn't the one who was the lead photographer. So to be asked to be that lead photographer, I really had to just like sit with that, like, holy shit, like this is like real. And I had to be in DC 2 days later, 2 or 3 days later after that. I was like, it's happening. So I went to DC with my assistant and we were out there and we were in the hotel setting up. And I had originally a half an hour with her. So I was like, okay, the lighting has to be set, camera has to be set.
And for people who don't know, how long do you usually have for shoots?
Well, my shoots that I've done, they could run anywhere between like 4. It always depends on the job.
Yeah.
The one I did with Rue, that was like a whole day. That was like a long day, but most of the time, 10, 12
it can
hours.
range.
It ranges depending on project. Like the one with Monet, that was a full day. That was like a 10-hour day. The one with Serena was like 2 hours. And then one with Kerry Washington was 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
30
Oh
minutes.
my goodness.
But that one was like, we made sure we got there, we start setting up, set up the backdrop, all of that good stuff, testing the lighting, and set, ready. And the editor says she's on her way. I'm like, okay, cool. She steps on, the moment she walks into the room, you just feel the energy of like warmth. You just feel it. Her team, like everyone coming in, it just felt like, oh, this feels like my cousin.
Yeah,
You know, it feels like
yeah.
she steps onto the set, get the first shot. My camera starts to like act up because I shoot on film and I just bought this camera, I think maybe like 2 weeks prior. And completely forgot like this is battery packed. Like as stupid as it sounds, like I forgot this camera also takes a battery because my all my other film cameras are manual, no battery. This camera took a battery. So I'm like, okay, it's malfunctioning. I literally bought my entire kit. So it was like, it ain't about nothing. We're going to throw that one to the side. We got options.
Right.
So we fixed that. I think it was like, I had 30 minutes where I think it was like maybe 10, 12 minutes in. We found out that her outfit was backwards. So the stylist wasn't on set. I think it was like someone from her team realized like, oh no, your outfit's backwards. I was like, man, so all those photos have to be like, so that was the case. We left, came back. She switched it, came back in, and I had like the rest, like 15 minutes with her. And I was like, this is all or nothing. Like I said, like I was talking to my assistant after. I'm like, yo, if we don't have one photo from that role, like I'm gonna jump off the bridge. But I shot both digitally and film just so we were gonna have something regardless. But I always priority is film.
Right.
And this entire train ride home, I'm just like, God, please, like the lighting was right. And I'm like questioning my assistant. I'm like, we had the right settings on the camera and everything, right? Just like, cause it was just so fast. Like I didn't have like a lot of time with her. So I'm just like, oh man. After we shot, I had half an hour with her because she had to do a sit down interview for an hour. So after we finished shooting, she was so warm. Like she was just very like, it just felt good. Like, it felt like I knew her for a long time,
Yeah.
personally, but she was just really warm. And I got the film back about 2 days later, and I was like, "Yo," I'm like, "There's
Yes!
options." I'm like, "See, Ellie, don't
Don't
doubt
doubt
yourself. Don't doubt yourself."
yourself.
But that I say all to say this, like, I have moments where I still doubt
Right.
myself. No one's perfect. The film came back, and I showed my manager, and he was like, "Yo," he was like, "There's no way, like, this is really, like,
Yeah.
this
Oh
really
my
happened,
mm,
in the best way, like, this really fucking happened." So I was sitting on that. I shot that in, November, and it was going live in December. So I'm, like, sitting on this whole time. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait for it to go live." And the moment it went live, like, it just went crazy. Like, people really were showing love. Like, I was like, "Whoa." Carrie even showed love. She, like, she shared the photo, and her team shared the photo, and they loved it. So it was really, really, really cool to, like, do that. And that was, like, that wasn't my first celebrity, but that was, like, my first celebrity shooting in, like, a vibe how I wanted to go
right,
about
right,
it,
right, right.
which was, like, so great.
Oh
Lovely.
my gosh.
Lovely experience.
I love that, and I love that it seems that you've had very, like, positive experiences shooting with people, which is not always the case, but it
No.
makes the experience so much better.
Mhm.
Um, when you were talking about, like, being on set and being the lead photographer,
Mhm.
um, I know a lot of times in the industry, people of color are not the lead
Oh.
photographer.
Mhm.
Um, I'm just curious, like, do you have any opinions on that, or have you experienced anything of that, like, direction?
I have not have I? No. No, I haven't experienced, but I one thing I do say is always bringing your people on. So in terms of, like, team, I was grateful enough to assist photographers who brought their people on, and seeing that, I learned a lot. Like, I'm like, "Okay, it's like we're in this room." So that's one thing I always, like, amplify for is, like, bring your people onto your team and, putting us all in the room, giving us, like, that we're here and we're not going anywhere type of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have any advice for younger, photographers of color who are, like, trying to get in the industry and don't know where to start or do feel bogged down by, like, not a lot of opportunities? How can they sort of, like, find their way in?
I think diving deeper into self.
Mm.
I know it's a lot easier said than done because I still to this day, like I said last week, I'm like, "Oh, I'm about to give this up." Um, I think believing in yourself and just knowing that you are worth more than you could ever imagine, and just sticking to it. Consistency is really key.
Mm.
One thing I say is, like, do your research,
Yeah.
and, whatever avenue it is you're trying to, like, embark on, do your research and don't give up on self.
Yeah.
I know with this day and age with the internet, it's really hard to, like, you see all these things and you see all these lavish like lifestyles, or, like, as a photographer, like, you see all these other photographers doing, like, the big things and the big guns, and you're like, wait, like, when am I
What
gonna get
about
that?
me? Right. Yeah.
So it's tough. It is very tough. But I think once you hone into self
Yeah.
and really know your worth, that's your golden ticket to
Yeah.
to propel yourself moving forward. There's a lot of moments like you would feel demolished and, like, just down, but, know that that feeling isn't going to last forever.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another day. Kill it tomorrow. Feel how you feel. And that's one thing I always say, feel how you feel. Don't, like, try to, like, throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Feel how you feel because it's normal. It's real. We all feel
Validate
that,
that. Yeah.
validate those feelings. Know that tomorrow is another day, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
that's one thing I would say. That's one thing I say to younger self all the time is, like, I'm very proud of you. And younger self tells me that as well. Like, I'm very proud of you.
Oh.
I had a lot of times where I was just like, man, I don't know what is next, like, what's going
Yeah.
on. But just to see, like, physical copies of, like, my work, or just it there and seeing how I did it, I think that really helps me even, like, today, me like, let's keep this going. You did
Yeah.
it. You're capable of it. Just keep going.
Yes. Oh, that is so
Mhm.
important. Even with this podcast journey that I'm on, like, I keep telling people it's really like a personal project for me.
Yeah.
It's to show myself that I can do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the older we get, because over break, I was just thinking about, like, Monique used to be so much more like creative and like
Yeah.
willing to take a chance and do different things, and then you get bogged down with like life and
Yeah.
comparing yourself to other
Yeah.
people, and I'm just like, I in order to be the best version of myself and go in the direction that I want to go in life, I have to stop that. I
Yeah.
have to start like doing the things that I want to do,
Yeah.
taking a chance on myself and just seeing if I can do it.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to do it. Like
Exactly.
now we're sitting here and it's like this is happening. Like
Yeah.
and you just got to keep going, keep going, keep going.
I'm a huge advocate for going for it.
Yeah.
Not trying is already not good. You know what I'm saying? If you're
Mhm.
not trying something, it's like you don't lose out on trying. Like, you don't lose on anything for trying. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, and I think tomorrow's never promised.
Right.
And, we all have a certain amount of time here on earth.
Right.
So it's like advocating for going forth, doing what you love to do. And I think that's what really also helped me with like leaving that job.
Mhm.
It was like, do I want to be miserable the rest of my life and like not feel joy in doing what I'm doing? I'm a huge believer that my purpose on this earth is to tell stories in the way I'm telling the stories, doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So being happy every shoot, every opportunity I get, every person I meet, every email response I get from a potential client, I'm grateful for because it's like I'm in a seat doing what I am supposed to be doing here on earth. And I'm grateful for God allowing me to find that at such an early age. And just really like I'm planting the seeds. I'm planting the seeds and I'm seeing them sprout and grow and continue on. Just keep doing that and keep planting the seeds and keep going and keep believing in self.
We're getting to the end of this,
No.
but how important has your faith been in your journey? Because I'm a Christian. I feel like people should start being more vocal about this if that
Yeah.
is a part of your journey.
Yeah.
I've started going to church more recently, more consistently, and I do think it's had a really big impact on not just my relationship with God, but also like how I see myself
Yeah.
and how I think about the future. The anxiety, you mentioned anxiety earlier.
Mhm.
Last year, I was so anxious all the time, like
Yeah.
just wanting to move in different directions and make certain moves. It's like, especially at this, when we're so young, it's like, what's next? Like, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? You're never going to know what's next, but God always will.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
And you have to trust in that.
Absolutely.
So, throughout your time doing this work and just throughout your life,
Mhm.
like, how has God really been a figure for you? Or, yeah.
Oh, he's the reason why I'm here,
Yeah.
So all thanks to the most highest
Yeah.
always. I talk to God every moment I can, through the good, through the bad, through the dark, through the light. And, haven't gone to church as often and as much as I would love to,
Mhm.
but that doesn't defeat my relationship I have with God. So he's literally the reason why I woke up today. He's the reason why I drove here and I'm
You're safe.
speaking. So all things goes to him. I always try to like make sure that whether it's like a 2 minute talk with him, a 5 minute talk in the shower before bed, but like I catch myself always just giving thanks because again, tomorrow isn't promised, and I'm thankful for everything that he's given me, the family he's given me, and that's one thing I always start off with is just like thank you for mom and dad because without them, I don't know who I would be or where I would be, and I am who I am today because of them, and because of them, it's come from him.
Yeah.
Always show my love to
Ah,
God.
that is so real. I do want to ask, are there any well, obviously you have dream talent, dream people you want to work with, but like, do you mind sharing any, dream collaborations or publications that
Mhm.
you would love to shoot for?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's countless amount, but who's always gonna be on the top of that list until it's done
Yeah.
is my girl
Oh,
Rihanna.
Rihanna.
B is
Oh,
up there
period.
too.
Okay.
B is up
Yeah.
there too, but Ree has always been that spark of like,
Yeah.
that's my girl. Her birthday's the day after mine. It just
Yeah,
only
it just
aligns,
goes. Yeah.
But she is part of the reason why I've comfortably been myself. Seeing her in rooms as simply as just seeing her walk outside a restaurant with her wine bottle.
Right.
So it's like just seeing that and just seeing her be her to the fullest and not give a fuck about what anyone
Yeah.
says. That's really inspired me in my journey and like feeling comfortable in my skin and feeling comfortable as a queer black boy in today's world.
Yeah.
So shout outs to her. Always shout outs to
I
her.
can see that. I
Yeah.
really see that in like the next
Yeah.
years, maybe. I don't know. I see.
I'm a huge advocate in terms of like when things align. we've been like synergized some way. You know, it's. I know the doors are gonna like it's gonna come in the way it's supposed to, but there's a lot of clients that I want to work with in terms of like commercial work, editorial work, and I actually have like a really big moment coming out this year, actually summertime. A big job I shot is coming. It's coming soon. So
I'm so
yeah.
excited.
That one was really fun. So I'm excited to see it out. It's gonna be it's out of home, so it's like gonna be everywhere. It could be on a bus.
Oh
It could
my
be
god.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm so
It's
excited. So the last question I want to ask, it's a segment called Who Put You On?
okay.
Is there any one person or group of people, and we've kind of touched on this, but
Mm.
I guess I want to give you another opportunity to just sort of give people their flowers. Is there any one person or group of people who have like greatly influenced you and your journey and where you're at now that you would love to just give their flowers to?
Dad, 100% dad. Because like I said early on, like if it wasn't for him, I don't know. If it wasn't for him doing what he's done my entire life with the camera, would I have picked that up at an early age? Maybe I probably would have picked up something in the creative field, but I think just seeing that at such an early age, flowers to dad. All
Yeah.
flowers to dad, for
Okay.
sure.
Amazing. Well, we have come to the end of the
No, this was
podcast.
fun.
I'm glad
This
you
was
had so much
fun.
fun.
No, this was fun. I feel like there's so many things I was um, like missing out or not saying, but it felt so good. Really
I'm
good.
glad you felt comfortable, and I honestly I love how much we talked about family.
Yeah.
I feel like people don't do that enough, and
Yeah.
I love the impact that your family has had on you.
It's made a big impact, and I just think every moment I can give thanks to them. You know, I am who I am because of them. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. It makes so much sense. Yeah.
Great. Okay, where can people follow you and find you?
You guys could find me. My Instagram is oh yeah, it's Ellie.
Period.
OHYEAHITSELI. Um Website elianelclinton.com. That is also linked in my Instagram bio. Yeah, so catch me on socials. Shoot me a follow. Feel
Follow
free.
him. Stay tuned for the
Yeah.
upcoming summer release,
Yes.
big project that's coming
There's
out.
two actually, now that I think about it.
Period.
Yeah.
We got two slated up. Okay, I know that's right.
Two on the way. But
Um,
yeah, catch me there.
Nice. Follow me at Monique WNYC on Instagram and catch you soon.